Good afternoon. It is Wednesday, October 25th at 3 p.m. and you are all at the District of Sechelt Committee of the Whole meeting. And I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask council if there are any declarations of conflict. None noted. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda? First, second it, all in favor? Carried. We have no appointments, delegations, or new business, so we'll move on to 5.1, mobile vending in Sechelt. And we'll welcome Councillor Inkster to the meeting as he gets settled. Welcome. We have Mayor Henderson online, and I will turn it over to our corporate officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report outlines some of the changes that we've been hearing the community may be interested in with respect to mobile vending. So a lot of that would benefit from a more concerted type of engagement approach to hear from the community. For now, one of the things that the mobile vendors are looking for is to move the timeline up so that they have more time to plan for their upcoming mobile vending season. So there are two recommendations in the report. One is to change that timeline, and the other is to embark on an engagement program.
Council, any questions about what the report contains? No? Oh, sorry, I knew. I'm going to forget. Mayor Henderson.
Thank you. I've got your back, Councillor Rowe, looking at the screen behind you. I'd like to hear a little more of how staff think we're going to roll out the consultation. Is this going to be, presumably we're not going to have that done before the end of November. So maybe we could have some comments on what that looks like.
Corporate officer.
Thank you. If it is approved by council, we would begin by going to our communications manager, of course, and she will provide some recommendations on steps forward, probably a survey and potentially other information sessions and ways to gather information from the community. Typically, we try to offer opportunities of engagement both online as well as in person, and at different dates and times. So the number of those and the types of venues that would be provided would be discussed with the communications manager and finalized. If council desired, they could be involved with the development of that program, I suppose.
Any follow-up, Mayor Henderson?
Thank you. No, just as to timing, the recommendation to get things out to the potential vendors by December 1st, we presumably won't have the whatever nature the consultation takes. We won't have the feedback to that until presumably what, January? Is that sort of the soft goal from staff?
I'm not sure if the timeline would be that fast, actually. I think the intention would be to have a longer engagement process so that the community can be well informed about what we're looking for them to comment on, and then prepare changes for the bylaw with the intention of the changes being implemented for the following season. So the 2024 mobile vending season would proceed as it is currently written in the bylaw, with the minor change of the timeline moving up to December instead of February.
Thank you.
Thank you. That makes sense. Thanks.
Hey, Councillor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you to the chair. It was quite interesting to read this very long 2008 bylaw, but I was just wondering with COVID, if there's any further comments on really the effectiveness of this kind of vending. I haven't personally seen, and I live in the village area, I haven't seen a lot of vending going on. And so if we do go with consultation, I would find it helpful to have feedback on how post-COVID the vending would be helpful to It's mostly food and beverage offerings to those people. But also I would like to include, because I noticed in the details that the vending is more supportive of people who live in Sechelt proper, but I would like to extend that to this lower Sunshine Coast, because I think there's more offerings from other, some of our neighboring municipalities. And so I'd like to see more variety for one thing, and have more success, I think, with the program. So those are just my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Will part of the consultation be looking at any potential new spots? That was mine.
Yes, sorry, I'm just looking at the recommendation, but I believe we had included in the general categories for engagement, the potential for expanding the display areas, which is what they're currently referred to in the bylaw, as well as changing the sorry, just reading the wording that's in here, changing the configuration of the existing areas, as well as looking at potential new sites, whether they are close to the existing areas or in other locations.
Okay, Councillor Inkster.
So my question would be then, if we look at the existing sites and I guess expand them, would that be for multiple users of those sites, or would that be for an expansion of the existing users? Some of the concerns we get is that people are coming and setting up quite a bit of a business there, but also leaving them. So if we have a pad that's enlarged without restrictions, then they'll use the whole enlarged pad. And that would then lead to leaving stuff overnight.
Councillor Toss.
Thank you. I think a lot of that will be sort of established through the engagement with what we hear back from people. I'm happy to move the recommendations 1 and 2 as presented on page 2.
Is there a seconder? Okay, any further discussion? Oh, Councillor Bell.
Through the chair. I just have one other question that did come to mind around the vending reports that were included phase 1 and 2. There's a lot of recommendations in there. What will happen with those going forward?
Corporate Officer.
I think the council is referring to the report from the Sunshine Coast Regional Economic Development
Yes.
Organization. So they're midway through an assessment of mobile vending across the Sunshine Coast. And we would look forward to including the results and recommendations in a report back for council's consideration when the rest of the public engagement results do come back.
Okay.
The other thing that we would be able to do would be to use at least the phase 1 and potentially phase 2 in the design of the public engagement process. So looking at the areas that they've already seen are areas of concern or, potential community benefits, and kind of focus on those. We're lucky to have that report.
Yeah,
at
it's a
this
good
stage.
report. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh,
Otherwise, it'll show me. Councillor McLaughlin.
thank you through the chair. Yes. I am also concerned that the engagement should include residents that live, especially along the Esplanade, because I've talked to a number of them and I walk there myself frequently, and I think a lot of us would hate to see the views there disrupted by numerous vendors. And that's really important to maintain the beauty and what we have there. I don't know many places that have allowed vendors to obstruct their waterfront views. I don't know any. And so I would really guard against that. Thank you.
All right, just a reminder that recommendation 1 and 2 have been first and seconded, so I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to third quarter division progress reports. Who's first? I know Mayor Henderson would be so much more organized than me, but just bear with me here. Okay, first up, we have Director of Corporate and Community Services.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the Corporate and Community Services Division includes the corporate services, community services, which is parks and facilities, as well as arts and culture. And then we have communications and human resources. So I'll just highlight a few items from the quarterly report, and then I'm happy to take any questions. For communications, our communications manager was mostly dealing with SDR, water issues, the unhoused, off-leash dog trails, and a variety of news releases that went out, including the new mayor's messages. We had 2 of those in that quarter, as well as the opening of the cooling centers and the beginning of the budget process for 2024. For our community services division, in arts and culture, we saw over 5,000 people that attended the Canada Day celebrations as well. That was the last day of the CEIA week. And we saw the Seashell Summer Music Series and the Rotary working on the gazebo at the dog park. That's still in motion, but that got underway during that quarter. And as many of you have seen, we've added steps to the amphitheater in Hackett Park to make it more accessible. So that was a win for our Parks Department as well. And then the upper field at Kinnickinnick that opened just for 1 weekend in August to make sure that we could rehabilitate the field, but it was open for the slow pitch tournament in August, and then it went back to being maintained in rehabilitation. And for our facilities, we saw an improvement of some of our assets that include the commercial kitchen at Rockwood. It's not completely done in this quarter, but the stove was installed. And then a number of events, including Oktoberfest. For human resources, the senior management team underwent some soft skill training on team leadership. And we saw the beginning of the Culture Club. And I've spoken a bit about this to council before, but the Culture Club came from the culture audit that took place in 2022. And the Culture Club is formed with a number of employees from different departments that are working on the improvement of our culture with the input from their fellow staff members. Also with wellness, we saw the annual staff appreciation as well as a celebration for our ops center where the senior management team served a lot of burgers and hot dogs to our staff and council. And the intergovernment volleyball tournament, that was our first annual. So you can expect to see it again next year. And that included the SCRD as well as the Seashell Nation. And the town of Gibsons has said that they will be there next year. As far as corporate services go, eScribe was in its infancy in this quarter and then will be rolled out in our current quarter. And what else did I say? Corporate. Oh, and our accessibility committee. So that formed in this quarter and has now been moved. And we have our someone from planning that is taking that on for the district, but our corporate officer was responsible for getting that going with the other governments. That's it for me. I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Director Roberts? Councillor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you through the chair. Just had a question about on page 24, our council correspondence. And I was just wondering, does everybody get a response so that they know that we've acknowledged their, concern? And how is it decided who gets a response? For instance, I know someone who sent to all of council quite a long, detailed concern, and they saw me on the street or whatever and said, "Oh, don't you send out a response?" So I would like them to get a response, but they apparently didn't get one. Thank you.
Thank you for the question through the chair. So we do typically, and we stand by that. So our executive assistant, who is excellent and new to the district, responds to all of our correspondence and will go out to each department if we need a subject matter expert to answer the question. So in hearing that, we will make sure that that is followed up on because everybody is getting responses from the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I don't know what that face means.
Well, it's just if, as council members, if we speak to a particular bit of information being received, it would be good for us to hear more information in that particular case. then I could say, oh, I saw that. Because I don't know what it's in reference to,
Yeah.
what you're talking about. I'm like, what was that, right? And sometimes we may also have remembered a reply from staff. Maybe they didn't see it. So just helpful, more information. Thanks.
Anyone else? Before we move on? Okay, on to financial services and IT.
Thank you. Acting Mayor Rowe. Finance Department is Finance IT. Both departments have had a busy time the last few months. One of the big projects that IT worked on was having all our phone network come through our softwares now, so we don't have phones on our desk. Everything is answered through Teams, and all our calls that we make are through Teams. So now we have a box or two of old phones that we don't use anymore. That was way more seamless than I thought it was going to be. It was basically come to work and next thing you know, we got a phone call on our computer and not at our desk anymore, or not at the phone. So that was a very big jump for our technology. Another item they've been working on is installing fobs at some of our locations, automatic, get in and out, as well as cameras. And those cameras have proven to be pretty valuable the last couple of days. We've had some vandalism and been able to identify a number of those people. So from the finance side of it, the fourth quarter or the third quarter included part of the end of the tax season there. As well as the potential for a tax sale end of September, which we didn't have to have. The last property was paid for at about 9:32, about 28 minutes before the tax sale. So we were happy to not have to have that tax sale. I think that's it for now.
Thanks, Director Douglas. Any questions for Director Douglas? No. All right, move on to planning and development. Director Allen.
Great, thank you. In the Q3 of this year, we added our senior policy planner, Mr. Kevin Pearson, who is hard at work on a number of topics, including scoping out the review of the official community plan, bringing forth a report to council in the near future about trends respecting density and housing in the downtown core. So lots of policy work happening now in Q3 and Q4 that we took a brief break on for a couple quarters this year. Staying on the topic of housing, we had 2 public hearings in Q3. There was 2 public information meetings as well. So there are a number of advancements, particularly in longer ongoing files, building permit issued for the Green Court building, for example, and more recently into this quarter, making great headway on the TELUS Living building. And so moving along quite rapidly on those files and making advancements. Lots of work on short-term rental as we entered into third quarter and got through the initial wave of applications of temporary use permits and non-conforming, and started working on the implementation and review and acknowledgement of those who had not yet applied for business licenses. Reaching out, we sent over 100 letters to operators, and we received a number of license applications, and we received confirmation of a number of folks who have ceased operation and are now in either long-term operation or not in business at all. And we have also been working on the summary report for the short-term rental that will be in front of council in the coming weeks, November 8th, committee of the whole, and that has been a full team effort, and we'll expand upon that at next COW, but it's been a full team effort to put together a comprehensive report on that topic. And that particular topic continues to take a significant amount of time, and will also cover the recent provincial announcement, which I'm sure council is aware of. And the other large accomplishment and piece of our time in Q3 was application for the Housing Accelerator Fund. I see as of today, The city of Kelowna was awarded $31 million. So that's interesting. I did touch base with our grant file manager this week, and she said all is on schedule, and we hope to hear within a month, which puts us right on target with budget presentation later in November. Hopefully, we know in advance, but it does a little bit of a dance for us, respecting projects we might suggest, dollar amounts we might suggest, and so forth. Nonetheless, it will be ironed out and confirmed prior to completion of budget, and we will certainly keep council informed the best we can along the way and remain both patient and hopeful on that topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Director Allen? Councillor Shepherd?
To the chair, I wonder if I could ask the director about the scope of the OCP update. Is it focused on the downtown? Is planning coming back to council with a wider description of what's being studied? Yeah, thank you.
Director Allen?
Yep, thank you. Great question. The primary focus would be on the more dense areas at this point, the downtown center and the mixed multifamily designation within the OCP. We've looked at the entire OCP. We've looked at the residential and low density residential designations as well, but trying to focus our efforts here and looking at not just figure 17 within the official community plan does provide the primary guidance and recommendations on density, but it is described throughout the OCP in various locations, and we're trying to organize it in a sense that makes sense. And we've compared development applications from the last number of years to analyze trends, what's working, what is being asked for in the development process, and how it relates to our community plan. And Mr. Pearson is working and tying that all together, and have a draft report to review, and we look forward to bringing that forward next month as well. And sorry, that's a very long-winded answer, but we're trying to focus on the dense areas.
Do you have a follow-up, Councillor Shepherd? No. Councillor Inkster?
I think an easy way to look at that particular analysis is to analyze and or propose and or plan for the sewer catchment areas. Those most likely will be the areas of higher density until we start to look at extending sewer lines to other areas.
Go ahead.
Correct. Yes.
Councillor McLaughlin?
Yes, through the chair. So the OCP is a long-term plan, and I'm just wondering if you're looking at any other kind of examples, best practices of other BC communities in terms of how to rewrite, given the context of the current environmental situation, new policy for that. For instance, I believe Squamish has won awards from the Planning Institute for their plan, which is, totally different from a development plan, a pro-development, business as usual plan. It takes into account a lot more environmental factors, and it's just a totally different approach. So I would hope that you would also look at taking some best practices and maybe a whole new approach from that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Bell?
Thank you, through the chair. Just curious about the letters you sent out. You said 100 letters out, and you got business licenses back, and you also got some information around people converting. Did you get responses from most of those 100 people, or were some of them? I don't need a number, but I'm just curious because now we're starting to get that data, which is great. And, we're starting to see maybe, we've talked a lot about whether this will result in some impact and some further rentals, some further, people converting, that kind of thing. So I think that's great to hear. I can see that starting to form. So I'm just curious in terms of, did you get quite a bit of good response on it when you did send the letters?
It's a great question. I can say that our response was across the range from, yes, we're working on compliance, to we're not doing this anymore, to further questioning what it is we might want or looking for, through to silence entirely, and working our way through that.
Yeah.
It's been a big chunk, and it's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
And from our building official standpoint, more work on that than building permits, for example.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, a big thank you to you and your team, because I know it's been a lot of work and really appreciate you staying in there. So thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, from me as well. I look forward to that report. All right, seeing no other questions, we'll move on to engineering and operations and Director Dillon.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you. So the Engineering Operations Division is responsible for the engineering project, sustainable infrastructure, public works and wastewater departments. And so this quarter would have covered July to the end of September, which is classically the busiest quarter for our division. Service requests in the third quarter equaled the first and second quarter combined. So that just illustrates how busy it is. Some things to highlights from this report are SMIT on our wastewater team achieved level 2 certification. So very proud of SMIT for achieving that. There are some minor exceedances of total suspended solids at the WRC in August. This was because staff were preparing for ultra filters in advance of a magnesium hydroxide trial, and things were back to normal in September. It was a busy time for capital projects. The projects that were completed in the quarter were the operations center, the Sani station, which received about 400 visits, or that amount to about $4,000 from opening to August 31st. And sidewalk repairs at Torito and Trail were completed in front of Home Hardware. And a lot of projects started construction in this quarter as well. West Sechelt Active Transportation Infrastructure started, the Wakefield Lift Station project, Shoalway and Reef Road bike lanes also started, and the Inlet Avenue revitalization also started in that quarter. There was major progress made on servicing agreements for some big developments. So the Telus Living development on inlet between Cowrie, on inlet between Cowrie and Dolphin, a lot of progress was made there on that service agreement. And we understand we're very close to issuing a building permit on that. Green Court also got a servicing agreement, and that's on the corner of Medusa and Ocean. Trail Bay Pier got a much needed paint job. It was needed one for a long time, so that got painted. And we did several transportation safety improvements throughout the district, such as pavement marking, deploying speed radar signs, and the installation of a speed bump at a problem area on ebb tide. Looking forward to the fourth quarter, we're going to work through the service requests that were identified during the budget process with the community associations. We've already done some work on that. There's major maintenance that's going to be happening on the Fed Batch Reactor number 4 at the Water Resource Center. Snicka Park washroom should be complete, if not or already is complete. I understand it just needs to be energized by BC Hydro. The West Sechelt Active Transportation Infrastructure project should be complete as well as the Shoalway and Reef Road bike lanes. Inlet Avenue should be completed as well in this quarter. And work on the sewage outfall will commence. And we plan on presenting a bunch of strategic initiatives to council. So the transportation master plan, septic receiving facility long-term plan, another update on the DCC program. And we are working in the background on updating our development servicing bylaw. Thank you.
Wow, I was going to say something cheeky, like, that's it. But I just want to reiterate how much I appreciate these reports every quarter. And I really appreciate living in the middle of the active transportation activity in West Sechelt. And I have to say that I took a walk up Mason Road past the store where it really has always been a bit risky to walk. And that new walkway up there is phenomenal. Like, there were families with baby carriages walking up there, and you could never do that before. So that's a great win for our community. More of that we can do, the better, I think. Anyways, And $4,000 on the Sandy station. I can't remember what the charge was set at for that. So how many visits is that?
So it's $10 per
So
visit.
400 visits.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's without advertising and it not being on Google Maps. So next year should be even better.
Yeah, it's impressive. Anyways, enough about me. Counselor Shepherd.
Now, just to follow up on your comment about the Sandy station, I'd really like council to consider increasing the fee. It's obviously a destination. There's very few other alternatives. $10, I mean, that's a cup of coffee now, so something to consider. Well, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Counselor Inkster.
I just wanted to ask through you to Mr. Dillon if how our ditches and culverts have been holding up with the recent rains before we get the real ugly weather. Are they ready?
Mr. Dillon.
Yeah, thank you for the question through the chair. They've been holding up well. There's some problem areas. So our public works crews have actually been a little bit more proactive than past years in getting on top of those issues. And I actually drove with the public works manager on last Friday, and we looked at a number of areas and we were able to figure out some problems on the ground and get some work done quickly. Next year, you'll see in the budget ask, we're doing a drainage master plan, and we're hoping to get direction on some of the more problematic and difficult areas of the district, such as in Sandy Hook and Tawanik, where the infrastructure was never planned for that type of drainage. So yeah, definitely something we're being proactive on. And the other thing is with our asset management system, we're now collecting data that's being uploaded into CityWorks so we can see where patterns are happening in the district and be proactive about that stuff. So thank you.
Go ahead. Yep, follow up.
Thank you. I mean, obviously with the problems out in Sandy Hook and Tawanik, I think council knows that when people cut down trees, large swaths of trees, there's going to be problems down from those cut downs with our drainage system. So we need to be aware of that. And one issue that I wanted to mention that I'm worried about, and I'm going to mention, I know that Mr. Dillon's well aware of it, is the Norwest Bay dip before it hits Wakefield. I'm really concerned about that. I just wanted to flag that for council. That's a big worry for me.
Director Dillon.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. On the last point there, that was one of the areas I looked at with our public works manager, or acting public works manager, I should say. And we are going to be addressing the slope that's eroding on the one side.
Counselor Bell.
To the chair, just curious, this is a great report and a lot of fantastic work going forward and a lot of work being done. So thank you for this. Is there anything on this in your work plan at this point that you need to flag or that you feel that's not moving forward, you're concerned about?
Through the chair, that's a tough one to gauge. I think all the projects are proceeding more or less on schedule. I think the worst issue would have been this, how stage 4 water restrictions impact progress on these projects, but that being over now, I think we're more or less in the clear. I think it's more about planning for the next round of projects next year. So Snicket Park washroom was the one I was concerned about, and thankfully we got our archaeological approvals and got the work done before it gets really nasty weather-wise out there. Thank you.
Any other questions for Director Dillon? Counselor Todd.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at page 78, the bottom of the page makes reference to a possible sewage leak in a private line. Is that investigation work something that the District of Sechelt has borne the cost of so far? Is it something that we're working with the property owner on? Is there any chance of us recovering anything from that? I know it's been driving by it every day. I know it's been an ongoing thing for quite a while now, so thanks.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the question through the chair, and I might ask for some assistance on this response from the Director of Finance, but to date, yes, the district has had some costs there. My understanding is recovery from the owner may not be that easy. We do have a mechanism to potentially fine under our existing bylaws. And that's something we can look at in terms of what the Engineering and Operations Division have been doing is we've been addressing the immediate overflows into our storm sewer. And we work with Vancouver Coastal Health to do a dye tracing program. And so now the Vancouver Coastal Health has issued an order under the Public Health Act, and it's an enforcement issue, and they've been ordered to deal with the issue in the next 2 weeks. So that's where it stands, and our staff have not had any more continuing involvement with that.
Mayor Henderson.
Thank you. First of all, if the owner of that, not sure who the owner is, but I would like to think that we could appeal to them to do the right thing, that we helped identify the leak thanks to some citizens and doing some preliminary work. So perhaps some of us who may have contacts can help to get us paid back for the work we've done. My question, I heard in the report earlier that we were, if I heard it correctly, were we out of compliance for the treatment standards at the Water Resource Center? And if so, did we inform whoever needs to be informed for that sort of thing?
Director Dillon.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So we are required to report all these exceedances. We have frequent exchanges with the province on what we're achieving at that plant. So they're aware of this. In this case, it was marginal, and in September, it quickly went back down to very low levels. So I don't think there's any follow-up action from the province on that. So it's all part of a larger strategy to see how we can better operate those filters, and the magnesium hydroxide trial is a part of the solution going forward. So we do a report, and we haven't had any requests for follow-up. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Speaking of follow-up, do you want to say more, Mr. Dillon, about the magnesium hydroxide? I'm not sure council's fully aware of what that relates to. And so in the other part, just to confirm, so we have told the authorities that we were out of compliance, and so there's no lack of or they know that we have been just borderline out of compliance.
Thank you again through the chair. So I'll come back to council with additional information. I've asked our manager of wastewater to have that ready in case you did want some more information. In summary, the magnesium hydroxide is a trial with a different chemical we're using to facilitate easier filtration. And we've had some issues with other chemicals we've used at that plant. So this is to try that. And our manager of wastewater has been running that. And so far, we're still looking at the results and seeing what conclusions we can draw from that. But initial indications are that things look favorable at this point, and it might be something positive moving forward. I can most certainly provide council with more detail on what's involved with the trials. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right. See none. That's today's business. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Inkster and Toth, and all in favor? And that meeting is adjourned.